I will. Before we start, we haven't started yet, right?
Yeah, we just start.
Great. I was gonna say I can try to find out where he is really
Oh,
quick.
don't worry. If you want to do that, I can do the preamble. Welcome, everybody, to episode 11 of the Popcast Movie Club, where we, or possibly I, will be discussing what I just watched. I think it's called Cloud Atlas. I, part of me doesn't know what it was, but I guess this is the problem of having a movie where it sort of does everything and nothing. Um, Joining me, hopefully, will be AJ as he's just checking on what's going on with Chris. I think. Hopefully, Owen will be in as well at some point. But yeah, hello to everybody in chat. I love the fact that like all the wrestling is all sort of the big gossip at the minute and whatever, and all everybody seems to be sort of talking about at the minute is whatever is still going on with Don't Worry Darling. Um which is an interesting situation. Um that's really sort of, I don't know, it's getting everywhere and nowhere. Just seeing if there's any new updates. Oh, there's the Venice Film Festival. I'm just seeing if there's any reviews for what debuted yesterday or whatever, or tonight. First Daughter's got good stuff. Don't Worry Darling just says panic. So yeah, there we go. Chris is in now. AJ is here as well. After not being here and then just spooking me. Um, I'll start off with Bry's comments because I sort of agree with him. Guys, let me tell you something. I've been bored with many films, but I didn't consider them a waste of my time. Cloud Atlas wasted a lot of time during my Labor Day weekend between Friday and Saturday. And then at the same time, Josephine saying, "Hey, Popcast team, it was great revisiting the movie since I hadn't seen it since the time it came out. I loved it back then, but I love it even more now since I've gotten into metaphysical stuff." So I think those two comments probably epitomize general reviews, and probably I can't say I hate it, but I'm also like really confused.
Had you seen it before this?
No,
Wow.
this was the first.
Oh, I'm.
I thought people think, Tarantino and his sort of like being telling stuff out of story was weird, but then it's like, here's 30 seconds of 2100, and now we go to 1970. It doesn't. I know there's like a 20-minute spell where the 2012 stuff, which was the more interesting story I think of a lot of them, never happened. I was like, where's the fucking care home? Where's the? I want to know what's going on with this. Have we run out of ideas for the care home? Because everything else kept like splicing in, and then there was just this gap where it's like, there's nothing happening here. Something's got to be happening. I appreciate how it's all intertwined, but it's all intertwined on very convenient sort of like nothings. Like the only reason that the story at the start on the bounty or whatever in the 1700s is relevant because the book of it is under the table leg of the composer. Okay.
The button that he stole shows up in a couple other ones.
And the thing that also got me as well is, and I know this was one criticism by some people, the Asianification and de-Asianification of actors for certain bits. Like when we see futuristic robot woman, but in 1700s, the makeup on that is just like that doesn't look right. And then in reverse, uh, when he turns up as sort of like really him and Hugo Weaving to some extent as like really bad Asian, and I was getting to a point where I was like, "What are you doing, Hugh Grant? I know you're supposed to be a tribal chief, but like, what is that?"
Acknowledge Hugh Grant.
I already did.
This is gonna be
I already did.
just
Thankfully, he did a good film in 2012, which was Pirates and Adventure with Scientists. That's where it all began. But
it is really like I love how divisive this is
yeah,
because there's times where it's like, oh yeah, we're all talking, we're all just kind of preaching to the choir. I love that this is going to be like a lot of the stuff I wrote down here to praise it because I have nothing but praise for this movie. I
mm,
don't know if it helps that I've seen it so many times. Surely it does, but all the things like there's some things that I wrote here that are like the opposite of what you're saying. So it's like now it's a new challenge because it's like instead of just saying, "Oh, this thing's great," and everybody else saying, "Oh yeah, I agree." Now I got to really try to explain why I think it's great, and that's
yeah. Well,
fun.
no, I like the whole concept of it, and I know this was a comment from Josephine, I think, slightly further down. Um, when she said, "Do you see it being adapted again years down the line as a TV miniseries?" As a TV miniseries, where each episode, like an hour or whatever, could be just dedicated to the one story, I think that
Yeah,
I might be more into that.
yeah, like a mini series that's in chronological order.
Yeah,
I think I think I heard the I haven't read the book actually. I think I heard that the book is in chronological order for the most part, which would make sense because I can't really imagine this in novel form the way it is in the movie.
I knew something was going to be up with the jumping as soon as it went bloody meta on itself, with Broadbent's character at the start going, "I'm going to tell this out of order. I don't like it, but I'm going to." Even though it wasn't actually his story, it was all other stories. It was just like that was the warning sign of, if you are easily confused, get the shit out the cinema screen.
So, brother, you and I saw this for the first time at the same time at the theater. How do you feel about it then versus how you feel about it now?
I feel about the same. I'm going to be partial to it though because it's an anthology movie in my mind, and I love anthology movies.
Yeah. Do you think it benefits from the way it's put together, or do you think it'd benefit more if it was in chronological order?
I think it depends, really. I don't think you could say absolutely one way or the other because I think some stories being told in chronological order, I think if you watch it in chronological order, it would be very hard to make the connections for the 1700s to the far future without, you have all that other stuff in between, so you might forget what those connections are, and it might make the story feel kind of pointless.
Part of me also does wonder if you did it as like an anthology series. The key thing is you could start it at any episode. I'm not saying you have to do it chronologically. You could you could have sort of 1970 start it, and then jump to the 1700s, and then to 2012, and just jump all around. But sort of have it like the key themes and whatever. Even if you have to do sort of like make it completely confusing in that you get flashbacks in sort of episode 1 that are scenes that you only see in like episode 5. But then of course if you see episode 5, you might be seeing stuff that was in episode 2, but you might if it the problem is you'd have to do it as like 6 separate movies, like one-offs, but sort of have just a general sort of, I wouldn't say small acts is the comparison, but it's that sort of thing when the themes and the stuff are there, and because I appreciate what it was trying to do, and from what I know of the book being supposedly by its author unfilmable, it's one of those where you've got to make a bold decision in how to do it, and I appreciate what they tried to do with it. I just found it way too confusing. I liked what was being done. I liked the stories. I just thought, some of the pacing was a bit off, and just it's not a bitter taste in my mouth. It's sort of like just I'm disappointed.
I feel like I should put something on the table while we're having a conversation about the way that it's put together.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I'm just gonna say like a general sentence, and then I can elaborate probably as we go. But the general sentence that I want to start with is, I think that this movie is one of the greatest accomplishments in editing I have ever seen in a movie. Which obviously goes against the would it or would it not be better in chronological order thing. I absolutely love the way this is put together. And I do get for sure where there's like some moments where it feels like it's kind of disconnected. But like I said, I'm wondering how much of an advantage I have having seen it as many times as I have, because now that I've seen it as many times as I have, when I watch it like now, it feels like the thing that really blows my mind at the start is not only are we dealing in 6 different, completely different settings, but the fact that we're also dealing with the minds of 3 different directors. But yet everything feels like a complete vision when you like really see it as a whole so many times over.
Yeah. I mean, some parts of the editing I didn't get, but that's obviously the way that the scripting's done. You can't really blame the editor for that. But I did like the bits, especially the bit sort of the flash at the start of like all the conflicts, the crashing the beetle off the bridge, which doesn't happen until 40 minutes later. I appreciate, it's sort of like the whole flashback sort of thing, or forward, or whatever. Well, I guess at that point it would have all be flashbacks, but like the whole, spiritualness of it and everything. So the editing beats of like having similar situations happen at the same time. The bit with the Tom Hanks's evil Geppetto trying to kill Jim Hawkins.
I do wonder how much of the way it's put together is scripted versus how many choices were made in the editing room. Because like when I write my own scripts, I basically write them like as I imagine they will be edited on the screen. But because when you look at it, Alexander Berner and Klaus Wellisch are the editors. And so it's like when I see them and I watch this, and it's like, these guys should be on a pedestal. These guys should be in an editing hall of fame for this movie. But then it's like, when you look at the rest of what they've worked on, you don't get that vibe. They worked on like the first Resident Evil movie and just really random stuff. And this like really sticks out on there from long. They've worked with Tom Tykwer a number of times, and that's like I want to say maybe the Matrix movies. At least Wellisch might have, but yeah, you wouldn't get that vibe. So I do wonder how much of the editing is actually in the script rather than the editing process.
I am also wondering how the editing process went. Like, did they edit their own separate sections? Because we know that I'm trying to think, it was the Neo Tokyo, the really far in the future, but was made to look like Last of the Mohicans, uh, and the mutiny on the bounty stuff was the Wachowskis, and then the sort of basically the last 100 years, the Cambridge 36, the San Francisco 72, and the 2012 London bit were all Twyker's doing. So I wonder whether like the two editors did, one did the Wachowski stuff and one did Twyker's stuff, and then they sort of actually came together and work out how to splice it all together.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is because Burner is credited as the editor and Welsh is credited as the co-editor. But Burner has like his own credit at the end by himself, so I'm not sure like how much was collaborative. Because when you watch the credits roll, it's like literally two sets of credits for the different sets of directors. But so I'm not sure like when it was like one person in between.
Yeah, I appreciate as well the acting that the people did. I mean, Hanks. I think it's Hanks, Berry, Weaving, Grant, and one I can't remember from across the universe.
I bet maybe Jim Sturgis. Yeah,
Jim Sturgis. I think they're the only 5 that were in all 6.
there is a very helpful chart on Wikipedia that answers that.
Yeah. Oh no, Broadbent is as well. Because like some of them, it's like Tom Hanks is sort of like prominent in all 6 of them to some extent.
I was thinking
even in bit parts.
Yes, sometimes I love. Sometimes the big names are just extras in one segment.
Like there's Jim Broadbent just sat there at the end of as they're about to go off into space. He's just there in the crowd. That's it.
I love
Halle Berry as the Asian doctor, which I didn't tell because I thought something was off because the makeup was weird.
I love the credits because there was a lot of times where I was like, man, did not know that was that person. Like it's the credits are helpful too, and I think the only one I'm struggling to remember if she was in was the 1700s one, but I think Susan Sarandon's in all of them too, isn't she?
No, she was in the 1800s one, but she didn't appear in the 20th century stuff. Neither the Cambridge stuff or the San Francisco stuff. She was in the other 3.
I meant to leave that up here and then I exit out. I'm gonna bring up that chart on Wikipedia that answers this question.
I would love to know, with all the different eras that they accomplished and everything, I would love to see, and I know this is random, I would love to see the wardrobe budget for this movie compared to other movies.
That's the thing I loved as well, because because everything, because half of it is done by Wachowskis and half is Twyker's. Everything has 2, so there are 2 set designers, there are 2 costume designers.
Yeah, that's the thing that really gets me about this is I know there's criticisms about the makeup, but I can't think of an aspect of filmmaking this movie doesn't completely excel at. Look at every single Oscar category that exists, and how this movie goes balls out on every single one of them.
Yeah, the cinematography was very well done. The costume design was executed great. Editing for what it did was pretty good. Trying to think.
I will never. It was submitted, like it was on the short list. I will never understand how it missed visual effects. honestly, I don't understand how it missed every category, but visual effects especially since it was actually in the running. Because New Soul could have been this CGI dumpster fire, and it looks incredible. That's definitely a Wachowski thing where they could make an incredible movie or a shitty movie, but their CGI is out of this world.
The C- the CGI looks better than what Zion did 10 years before. I would say.
I appreciate too that they went practical with the makeup, because I feel like if they tried to make this movie today, they would say that the easiest way to do it would be to animate it in like a Robert Zemeckis Christmas Carol style.
Yeah, definitely. Nobody seems to care about practical makeup anymore, and it's really sad.
That being said,
I mean,
it would have
even when
made
it looks
the
bad, I
Asian,
appreciate
non-Asian
that
stuff a
there's
bit
effort.
better.
What were you saying, brother?
I said even if it looks bad, I appreciate that there's effort.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate the effort
start-
that they put into doing it. I just think the whole concept of actually choosing to do it with said actors is the issue.
Yeah, to answer our question from earlier, Jim Sturgis, Halle Berry, Hanks, Grant, and Weaving are the only ones that are in all five, and then Wishaw's only missing from Neo Soul, and Broadbent's only missing from 1973. But I feel like Dunavay and Jim Sturgis are kind of cheating with 1973 since they're just in a picture, but still, it counts. If Lifeboat counts as a Hitchcock cameo, then that counts.
I mean, and the thing I also like is the fact that they explain like how the whole thing like in press was like everybody has different relationships in the different things to show how it all means. Apart from Hugo Weaving, who's just a baddie in every single one of them.
I'd say Hugh Grant is also the thing about that I feel like is the way it sets up how I think Lana Wachowski said something about how it's like clearly the casting is about like different souls being reincarnated, and going into that how it's like you have characters that are good in every segment, you have characters like Hugo Weaving and Grant who are bad in every segment, which really makes it interesting when you have Hanks, because Hanks goes back and forth each time, which I thought was really interesting, especially with Hanks's reputation for being like the nice guy of Hollywood, and how like you don't know from segment to segment if he's going to be a good guy or a bad guy.
Yeah, because
So,
at first you're like you trust the doctor on the ship for like trying to do the best for him, and it's only sort of later on when you realise, nah, he's just a gold digging bastard.
I think there's even a moment where the shot is a shot of Goose, the evil doctor, and then the very next cut is to Sax, the good character that he plays in 1973. And it's like just to show that, like, I love the back and forth they can do. Like, there's moments when we'll be in like a completely different segment, and then when they cut to it, we're like on the opposite side of the earth, on the opposite side of time. And it's just the show that just editing like that shows like just the grand scale that this movie's at, where it's like we'll be like in New Soul at one point, and then the next scene we'll be in is the ship in 1849, and it's like just how vast that whole thing feels with just one cut. Is something that I just love that's throughout this movie. What do you guys think about the way they handled like different genres from segment to segment? Because 2012 is basically a black comedy, and then 73 is like a paranoid thriller. I was thinking I read somewhere that Louisa Ray is more or less inspired by Silkwood. And then obviously in Neo Soul you've got like a whole sci-fi action movie, what you would expect from a Wachowski movie.
It feels it feels like it's what Ghost in the Shell should have been. Thanks, Scarlett Johansson. Yeah, and obviously, sort of, it's obviously weird as well with the most futuristic one being sort of the most tribalistic, um, as if again with the whole cycles that basically everything went backwards.
Yeah,
Except Halle Berry and her space gun.
yeah, I always love the Big Island stuff because it's like an ancient civilization, but then when Halle Berry comes in, it's like this ancient civilization is the backdrop for all the futuristic shit that comes into it, and it's like just the contrast of that is something that I really love. And it's like, and it's sort of that whole thing of like the things that you hear about like science wise, and it's like, are we going back to an ancient civilization at some point? Maybe even sooner than 2321. That's a whole other thing. I love the way the language changed by the time we got to that point. Also,
that was when we got to the real future. I'm like, why is everybody talking like we're in the deep south in the 1950s? And I'm just getting flashbacks to To Kill a Mockingbird or something. You want the
yeah,
truth,
it's
Papa?
completely because the way language like evolves is just really unpredictable. And it was like, okay, I can run with this if this is what it is. Like I love if you watch it with subtitles, there's a point in time where Hank says "fuck it," but the subtitle is "fuggit." Brother, I was going to ask you something, and it completely slipped my mind. But did you? Was there anything you were going to comment on earlier?
I just feel like this movie makes me realize we need more full heel Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Yeah, because the question comes up a lot, like, what would it be like if Tom Hanks played a villain? And I think the answer usually here is this and the Lady Killers, and that's.
I think if you catch Ray from the Burbs on a bad day, you could get a villain.
Yeah.
I guess could you depict him as a villain through Elvis?
Yeah, he tries to tell us at the beginning. It's like people say I'm a villain of this story, and it's like, well, yeah, you kind of are, dude. It doesn't matter if it's from your perspective or not.
You caused him to die by overworking him. Ironically, being played by Tom Hanks, the guy who sort of overworks, I feel, because he just does a film every fucking year.
Yeah, but when you're as good at film as Tom Hanks is, you can do as many films as you want.
Yeah, but I'd like to sort of see him space them out. Even the Lord and Saviors that are Meryl Streep and Jennifer Lawrence have took time off, and they haven't sort of been in award stuff. Yeah, every year, Hanks has always got something that could be considered for it, in some shape or form, for the last 10 years.
Yeah, I remembered, brother. I was going to ask you about your opinions on the different genres that we go into.
I thought I answered that.
Oh, did you? I might have, shit. I might have spaced out for a second. Because the scene I was going to bring up was something that would seem like totally out of place in any other movie is like the slapstick moment with the cat and stuff like that, where I was talking about how 2012 is essentially a very, very dark comedy. But it's weird what this movie makes me say, yeah, I'm going to run with this about. But it's like the way they, like every segment feels like it's a completely different story, but yet somehow it all feels like one big picture is something that I can't wrap my head around in a good way. I love that, like, this movie, like, when you guys say that you're confused by the movie as a whole, I'm confused by how we managed to actually live in a world where this movie exists. Like, I can't believe it. Like, I look at this movie and it's like, I can't believe, to my understanding, Hanks signing on had a lot to do with it getting made. And then there was the fact that everybody under the sun was throwing money at it independently. And then it's like when you actually see, and then somebody as big as Warner Brothers being the ones that put it out, because regardless of where we're at now, Warner Brothers has really taken some risks on what they'll distribute, and I feel like this is Exhibit A of that. I was
Yeah,
also going to
the
mention
fact that it's only distributed by Warner Brothers and it's actually like 3 or 4 other production companies rather than, well, Silver Pictures, who you'd expect with the Wachowskis.
yeah, just a kind of side comment I was going to make, following up the cat thing was, did anybody else make the same mistake that I did? Where the love story of 2012 is revealed, where Susan Sarandon is Jim Broadbent's long lost love, and you've got Broadbent in the window, and then Susan Sarandon walks into the room, and it's like my first thought. I remember when I first saw it was, "Oh, that's a bit of weird casting because obviously Susan Sarandon is way too young for Jim Broadbent." So I did some Googling and found out that Susan Sarandon is 2 years older than Jim Broadbent.
That makes sense.
Like, good for you, Susan Sarandon.
If you get him looking right, he does look his age.
Yeah.
What was it? Not Dennis. Was it Dennis? No. King of Thieves? The one based on the Hatton Garden diamond robbery? Or the jewelry robberies? Where he just basically looks like himself.
Yeah, I think that's it, because Den of Thieves was that Gerard Butler movie that everybody but me liked, apparently.
Yeah, it's only sort of when he has sort of the sort of grey hair or sort of stuff like in the Duke and this, and Harry Potter, where where the hair just looks a bit quirky, where he sort of seems to be playing older than he is.
Yeah. I forgot another thing I was going to mention about the time jumps that I love was like where I talked about Neo Soul cutting to the ship in 1849.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that 1849 is the farthest we go back, and then the future with Hanks telling the story is the farthest in the future that we go. And I love when the stories are wrapping up at the end. We wrap up the 1849 story next to last, and so we cut to the end of the story that's from the end of the story that goes the farthest back in time to the end of the story that goes the farthest in the future, and then that's where the movie ends. And like I said, I just love seeing the opposite ends of time being utilized in the editing so well.
Yeah, it makes sense that obviously they sort of have the thing sort of bookend and whatever, because they sort of 73 and 2012 sort of just end but naturally, but then you sort of have more of the callbacks with the 1800s and the 1936 one calling into 2144, which calls into sort of 2321, and everything. I appreciate the sort of crossovers, but some of them were just sort of very sort of, as I say, sort of like trying to way to shoehorn it in for some sake. But once they got the shoehorn in, it works. But I just don't appreciate the shape of the shoehorn. I don't know where I'm going with this. It's a shoehorn with a 90-degree thing rather than a natural curve.
Yeah, I will say there's connections that I really like. Some of them may be on the nose, but I still think they work anyway. I have actually a whole list of them here. There's I love the cut where Hanks is in the farthest future, and he tells Halle Berry, "I will guide you through Devil's Door." And then right after he says the Devil's Door, we cut to the gates of Aurora House opening, since that is a hell in itself. We learn, like I said, I understand that it's on the nose, but but I still really appreciate it. And like I said, that's probably what I love more. Like I also love, um, like when we hear Frobisher's music in the '70s, and the clerk that was drawn to it, that's telling her this amazing music he heard, is Wishaw, who is also Frobisher. And it's
So
like the idea of
somehow he
how it's
just
like
likes it, and he can't. Can't
it's
think
kind of
why.
like, this may be really pretentious, and I hope I'm not the only person that's mind goes there. But it's like when you're listening to something that really connects with you or moves you, but it's like before your time, you do kind of have that thought where if you connect to a piece of art enough, one of your thoughts might be, was I maybe this person in another life? And it's like, because it feels that familiar. And so it's like I love the fact that that clerk is also played by Wishaw, and how it's like the idea that Frobisher, like this guy is Frobisher incarnated in a way, even though we only see this guy this one time. I feel like it makes that point enough. I do also, and there's the stuff like in 1973 when Keith David shows up at her apartment and he's talking about what's going on, and you get the sense that things are closing in on Louisa being Halle Berry. And this scene is intercut with the scene from the farthest future where Hanks is coming up behind Halle Berry with a knife. And it's like seeing that moment while things are closing in on her in 1973. I feel like that's cut together really well. There's the moment when Frobisher is writing to Sixsmith and he says, I wish I could make you see this brightness, while he's looking at a sun rise. And then that cuts to Ewing watching a sunset like nearly 100 years before. And it's like, even though there's not much of a like character connection between those two, there's still, you can still feel like everybody connecting in some way, where it's not necessarily just the characters that are played by the same actors are connecting, but you feel even the characters that are seemingly unrelated connecting in some ways. If I'm making any sense at all, I don't know. I feel like I lost myself.
No, I think I get it. I get it. Don't worry.
And then there's just the continuous things we see out throughout, like the revolts. How like there's the stowaway slave in the earliest story. Then there's and like this is a really big thing, obviously. Just obviously slavery at this time in general, and then you get all the way to the future, and you have the stuff that Saul May's a part of, where it's like these people are being like, it's weird when you see the servers that Saul May's with, because like at first you would think they're cyborgs or robots or something, and it's really disturbing when you realize they're human. But then there's the where that's obviously a really huge revolt that obviously set off this whole thing, became this historic thing. But then you have something that seems very small by comparison, which is the revolt at Aurora House. But then you see the connection of how the characters that started these revolts became historic within the following moment in time, where it's like how the movie was made about Cavendish that Sonmi saw pieces of, and then that caused her whole revolt. And then later on, there was everybody's treating Sonmi like a god in the farthest future, and it's like the connection there feels like, and it's like just the way that I guess it's kind of that whole thing where like any one person can make this massive change and become historic. And like it could be somebody as somebody that's seen as a god like Sonmi and goes through that kind of thing, or like Cavendish just going through this very small thing by comparison, where his biggest issue is a nurse played by Hugo Weaving, who is nightmare fuel still.
It took me a second or third glance to go, wait, that's Ben Whishaw as Gwendolyn.
Yeah,
because that was like actually sort of it had a believable sound to it. It didn't just sound, I'm putting on a women's accent. Hugo's to some extent did, but Ben's was like actually sort of like pretty bang on.
Yeah, you like the first time I felt like the first time I watched it, I didn't even realize that was Wishaw, but it's like I love that when you see Hugo Weaving, you always know it's Hugo Weaving.
Yeah, he has the face, like with Hanks when he showed up as the gangster, and I'm like, what are you doing, son? I'm a cockney.
Another
I also appreciate the
another
fact
connection.
that the way the story was told into a movie was just Americanized and made absolutely nothing to do with it. Again, probably sending up what sometimes is done with adaptations, where it's just like, we got the name, now let's make it into A Few Good Men.
I forgot to mention when I was talking about Revolt's another one where it kind of seems like it's of the same theme, but it may not be as big of a scale. But in a way, I guess you could say Louisa's also involved in a kind of revolt with the way she's like going after like higher powers, where it's kind of in the same spirit of what the other revolts are, where it's always like there's this higher person that's kind of seemingly unreachable, and it's going to be this one person that basically causes this whole thing. And I guess there's also the cannibal theme. Did you notice that? Where it goes all the way back to like go all the way into the future, and we have the Kona, the cannibal tribe, and then you can take that back to when Sami discovers that they're unknowingly being forced to eat themselves. And then this feels like it starts from Cavendish in 2012, mockingly making a Soylent Green reference. That's in like light jest, and then but like carrying that light jest of a comment to the reality of the following segments.
Yeah,
Is what
the little bit in 2012 when Hugo Weaving's nurse is going, "You'll be eating soap," and then you actually get the payoff of eating soap with Hugh Grant and whatever, and then of course the Soylent Green are people. I only just realised that now. I might get it slightly more on a second watch because I'll be looking for all the stuff that actually intertwines.
Yeah, there's I promise you there's so much of it. Another connection that I really love and is kind of moving in retrospect is the fact that the end of the movie is Hanks and Halle Berry in love and having a large family. How it kind of completes the incomplete love story of 1973, where Hank says, "Oh my God, I think I'm in love with Halle Berry," and then he blows up, and that's just loss. It's like it feels like that's sort of like it's a love story that was completed by their future incarnations in the very very distant, the most distant of a future that we get. I'm not even sure what year that's supposed to be by the time we get there. I want to say it's like 2346 maybe.
Hang on. 2321.
Yeah, there's the main story is
2321. Winters after the fall.
Yeah. And then after 2321 we have the big gap of time where they become grandparents, which is where we end.
Yeah. I don't know their livelihood. Maybe that's actually set in the year 4000. I don't know.
Yeah.
People age differently.
Oh, it would certainly be nice if we discovered anti-aging soon.
I do appreciate though as well they didn't sort of like have one actor sort of be the focus of every single bit. You know, they spread the load with Sturgis being the focus of the ship one, Halle Berry being the 70s, Wishaw being the Cambridge one, Broadbent being the focus of the modern day one,
Duna Bay and
Suomi being the focus of the Neo Soul one, and then Hanks being the front cover of the poster.
Yeah. And I honestly, I remember one of the comments the author of the book made was he wasn't sure how you could make a movie with 6 beginnings and how anybody could get like invested in that. But what I really love, especially from the editing standpoint, is we're getting 6 beginnings, honestly, like, this was one of those movies that I remember I didn't get everything the first time, but I still loved it after the first time. And then I ended up seeing it again while it was still in theaters, and then I've watched it I don't know how many times since. But there's just something so interesting and surreal about the time jumps when we're getting each beginning, and that in itself is enough. But I also feel like the characters are involving enough. But the great payoff about getting a movie with six different beginnings is you're also getting a movie with six climaxes that are happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And so there's like the entire last 45 minutes or hour of this movie is just like not nonstop hype because everything is coming to a point all at once. I used to I remember when I first saw it, I if you'll forgive me, anybody listening to this, if you'll forgive me. The first time I saw this movie, I remember equating it to an orgy where everybody climaxes at the same time. That's essentially what it feels like.
The Gaspar Noé film.
Yeah.
um. Yeah. It's just I appreciate with sort of like how it started, but I thought it was going to be sort of like more. I don't. Maybe it was sort of the jumping back and forth so much when it should have been like you could have done 10 minutes here, 10 minutes at another one, and then sort of do it like that. But sort of like going to sort of like four different scenes at the same time. I know, admit because of the themes and whatever, but sometimes it did like wait that person's that again like. When they have better makeup, I can realize that they're different. It's easier.
I kind of find it exciting that it's like instead of getting the audience like into a rhythm, it's like you're never quite sure when it's like how long it's going to be before we cut to another segment and where in time we're going to be in that moment. And it's like I kind of like the way that it's completely I mean, I feel like there's absolutely a structure here, but if you're like just kind of watching it, it feels extremely random, which I can see being off-putting. But I kind of love that sort of unpredictability of where we're going to be next, especially since where we're going to be next is going to be at the very least 100 years away.
Mm-hmm.
Ashley said, I think he said at the beginning that his favorite segment was 2012. Brother, did you have a particular one that's your kind of favorite section?
I like them all pretty equally. I like the future stuff. The thing with the future stuff that got me though is I like what they did with Hugo Weaving in the future.
Oh, you mean in like the farthest segment?
Yeah.
Where he's like a supernatural force.
The Baron Samedi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a hat.
Yeah, I love that shot where he's taunting Hanks and he's walking like sideways against the cliff, and then he's like all around him. I love that shit.
And I love too that you mentioned that in some of the segments Hanks is a bad guy, other segments he's a good guy, but in the future segment in his most final form that we see, he struggles with the good and evil.
Yeah.
Like on the cliff where it's whether to drop the rope or not, it's like, are we going to get heel Hanks or babyface Hanks? Because it could go either way.
Yes.
The thing is, like, the only bits that I felt that I hadn't seen before in another film were the 2012 one and to some extent the Far in the Future one, the 2300 one. The others I felt, the ship one just seems like I keep calling it Mutiny on the Bounty, but that's what it sort of feels like, that sort of like thing. The 70s one feels, as you said, Silkwood, but I thought sort of China Syndrome's a similar thing, like with a nuclear plant going up. I
Yeah, it's literally like if you to bring China into it twice, it's the China syndrome and Chinatown a little bit.
Yeah. The 30 stuff just felt like, I don't want to say like Tolkien and whatever, but it did sort of feel like a traditional sort of 1930s merchant ivory style thing. It only got interesting when he decided to shoot him and everything.
What honestly, the thing that's the probably the coolest thing about the 1936 segment is something I didn't know or realize until I looked it up. I think it's literally just hanging out in IMDb's trivia. How 1936 is a love story between Wishaw and James Darcy. In the whole segment, they never speak to each other, ever.
No.
I was like, that's kind of amazing because there's such a like romantic connection there that never occurs to you.
He just
he
just speaks to him through the letters.
With that, you know what it kind of made me think of? It kind of made me think of Dracula. When Harker's off at Castle Dracula and he's writing letters back to Mina Harker. That's what it reminds me of.
So if Wishaw's Harker, that would make Broadbent Dracula.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a movie I want to see. He even slays him. I mean, he's not Van Helsing, but he still ends up slaying.
Well, he shoots him, but I don't think he dies. So.
No, remember the newspaper? He survives.
Oh shit, that's right.
That's why he goes on the run.
A big part of the reason he offs himself.
Oh yeah. How many times did I say I've seen this?
Yeah, let's quickly go to some of the comments. Josephine continued on from her positive talk about it. I think part of why it was sort of written off at the time was because it was ahead of its time as far as metaphysical themes. Like people weren't ready for it, and then Bry comes in with, "It took me 3 hours or so to get through the first 90 minutes, and 2 hours for the rest of it." I sometimes wonder whether that pacing. I understand why it has to be as long as it is, because it's basically, in essence, 6 25-minute segments.
I had an anecdote that I was gonna tell about this movie, but I'm kind of afraid to now because I don't want to sound like I absolutely want to sound like I'm hating on the person in the anecdote, but I don't want to sound like I'm hating on anybody here. Right around the time it came out, like on demand, I overheard a conversation in a restaurant about this movie, and it was so fucking stupid that I still remember it today. It was I guess I can just leave it at that. But
Josephine says the score for this movie, especially the ending melody, is just gorgeous. I mean, it makes sense because if it's supposed to be the score that holds everything together, i.e. what Wishaw's character wrote in 36, it needs to be good. Makeup is impeccable. Film not getting a makeup nomination is a travesty. Bry coming in saying, not only because it's boring, but it's so confusing. I don't think I get you with the boring bit, Bry, but I get the confusing bit. Pre-nominated.
The thing is with the way it's put together, because the stories by themselves would be so short, every segment feels like it's moving forward. I think I'm assuming it's just the jumping around that would make it feel like that it's. I can't imagine seeing this movie as dull. I can't do it.
Pre-nominated for its visual effects by the Academy, but failed to make the final selection. Then Josephine asks, which segment or time period would you want to live in? With Bry replying, none. I think Bry does not like it.
They all definitely have their downsides.
I wouldn't mind jumping back 10 years and going back to 2012 as long as I can drop 10 years off of my age.
Yeah, as long as we don't have an evil brother like Hugh Grant, we should be about where we were in 2012.
Which, speaking of which, is there ever going to be another movie come out where Hugh Grant and Jim Broadbent are brothers and it's plausible?
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to mention that also. Do you remember when the first still came out of Hugh Grant as the cannibal?
Mm-hmm.
And that was just like, there's no way this is a real movie. This was at a time where it was like, Hugh Grant would never do this. Hugh Grant isn't this daring with his choices, is he? This movie was a huge turning point for his career, I think. Like he was doing fine in like the early 2000s, like About a Boy and stuff like that. But I feel like this is a movie where people really, and I feel like I've heard him say before that this movie was like, Hanks also speaks really highly of it, and it's like how this was like huge sort of turning points in their careers where they really wanted to start doing things that were this interesting and this sort of random to them.
I saw something where Tom Hanks said that this is one of the few movies that he's in that he'll watch.
Yeah, which by the way, looking at his filmography, that says something.
And also, I feel like going back to Hugh Grant, I feel like when you're watching him on screen, I feel like Hugh Grant is having a good time.
Yeah, it's like you've noticed how whenever you'd see him in the past, he was always like beating the shit out of a paparazzi or getting involved with the law or something. But it's like ever since this movie, he seems to have been consistently really enjoying his career. And like I said, I'm sure I've heard him specifically say that this movie caused that, or was definitely the starting point of it.
So are you saying that there's a possibility that Cloud Atlas is the reason that he's in Paddington 2?
Yeah, I was going to say Paddington 2 and The Gentleman. It's very likely.
What? Because of his portrayal in the 2012 bit? As the Cockney guy? Oh, I'm putting you in a nursing home. I invested in it. In terms of which segment, 73, because the plot just seems like something that we're probably living through right now. With the energy crisis and everything. I just sense something like that could happen. I don't want it to, but I just sense it could. Tom Hanks claims that this is one of the few films of his own that he actually likes to rewatch, Josephine says. Which, says a lot if he thinks the rest of his films are crap, if he doesn't want to rewatch them.
And by the way, I love the fact that one of the reasons he said that is because he finds new things about it every time. And it's like, that says something for the guy that read the script. It's like there's definitely something there.
I just had this funny image. We're gonna bring a classic joke of ours to your channel, where we imitate something that we could imagine. Like, I imagine like Tom Hanks is sitting in his house flipping channels, and Cloud Atlas comes on, and he's on his couch, and he gets real excited, and he's just like, "Rita, Cloud Atlas is on!"
He calls up Colin and Shed, and
I don't know if I want him to already be on the couch, or I don't know if I want him to be doing something in the room, notices it's on TV, and stumbles and trips his way to the couch excitedly. The whole way yelling for Rita and demanding Rita to come in and watch it with him.
I know what they're not doing for Disney Plus Day. Hey, Pinocchio's on. Put it on Cloud Atlas, damn it! Because she was drunk.
Oh, you remember when you were in Philadelphia? Fuck that! Cloud Atlas is on at 8. Oh man, somewhere Tom Hanks is like, that's not me at all.
Yeah, I was just like, I think because when you say it's the movie of his he's watched the most, he's only watched more than twice. Is it's like not even Forrest Gump And it's like I just had this image of somebody saying Forrest Gump to him while Cloud Atlas is on. I don't even know what that is.
We don't talk about that in these parts.
Like, I do want to believe the only thing he will turn Cloud Atlas off for is the Burbs. That's what I want to believe.
Oh man, this kid runs up to him, "Mommy, it's Woody. Fuck you. I'm in Cloud Atlas."
Oh, look, your turn as Mr. Rogers is on. What the fuck is that shit?
Oh, by the way, not to mention, whenever somebody says anything other than Cloud Atlas, he turns into the author character and throws them off of a balcony.
And before he does it, he goes,
That's it.
fuck him. Like he doesn't.
He threw, if I remember right, he threw a critic out the window, so maybe that's his way of acting out his reaction to critics' response to Cloud Atlas.
Yeah. Oh man, you guys need to watch it.
I can't wait for Pinocchio on Thursday. Why else are they putting it on Disney Plus? That's why I feel sorry for Pixar. Everything in the past couple of years that has been Pixar has been put on Disney Plus. So now people have the bloody feeling that everything Pixar needs to be on Disney Plus. They're not going to bother with anything else, even if it's any good.
Every time you mention Pinocchio, I just think back to you calling Hanks evil Geppetto, and I can't.
Maybe it is. That's the twist. I don't know. We don't know the story.
We zoom out, and the ship's actually a monster of the whale.
We already, after that Italian one a couple years ago, we don't need another scary Pinocchio.
Hi, Guillermo del Toro. I'm pretty sure he's doing it. We'll see that in a couple of months. Although that will be good at the awards for visual effects. It'll be Pinocchio. Which one?
What were you getting ready to say?
I'm trying to remember. You might have to come back to me. I remember what I was going to say.
There we go.
Where we were talking about how if the movie was made today, it would have been made as an animated movie. I also feel like that instead of having the 3 directors do the 5 stories, they would probably have 5 different directors do 5 different stories, and I think that would further disjoint it.
It's 6, isn't it?
Is it 6?
I think so.
Well,
Yeah.
either way, you'd still have 6 directors, 6 different visions. I feel like that's the route they would take because they'd want to advertise that all the directors worked on it. But I just think it would have damaged the movie ultimately.
So, Casino Royale. I love the credits for Casino Royale. It's like directed by this, huh? And what? He's going to stop now, isn't it? No, can you stop? Oh, there we go. 7.
Yeah, it is crazy how, like, obviously Tom Tykwer isn't as prolific as the Wachowskis. Obviously, I think clearly by far his most well-known movie is Run Lola Run. But it's like the Wachowskis make sense being 2 different directors because they're siblings, and as we've learned with like the Coens, sibling directors usually have like their brains are basically one.
Yeah, because you mentioned, who was it that you mentioned? The brothers, the Coens.
Yeah.
You've also got the Farrellys with Stranger Things. You've got the Duffer Brothers. You've got the Russos.
Yeah, and the great thing about that is when you add Tom Tykwer into the mix, nobody seems to be able to tell which directors did which segments in this because they all feel like even though they were 2 completely different like crews and everything, it doesn't feel like there's different minds at work here. It feels like one thing.
The only bit only because of the Matrix did I feel the Neo Soul stuff was Wachowskis.
Yeah, and I hate.
But I'm
even
surprised.
as
I'm surprised that they also did as well as they did with the most period of it, the 1849 one.
I've mentioned a few times now my friend that makes the montages for directors. And just at the end of as soon as the last Matrix movie came out, she did one for the Wachowskis. And it's amazing how good Jupiter Ascending and Speed Racer look when you combine them with the big scenes from like the Neo Soul scenes. And it's like you can actually make those movies look good based on their production values when you see how well it is and how you see how they have this really particular vision between the two of them. And like I said, adding a third director into them, I feel like Tequer might have done some like side stuff on some of their previous movies, and that's where the connection was to begin with. But it still feels to me like three brains, two crews, one vision, which is insane.
Josephine's with some trivia and whatever. One of the few films in history that has three directors working together as an original team who equally share directing credits. A cloud atlas is a real thing. It's a collection of images of clouds showing all the different types that occur in the atmosphere and their various names. It's also the director's longest runtime for any of their former films, running at 2 hours and 52 minutes. James Darcy's the only one to play the same character in two different eras.
Yep.
Playing the young and the old Sixsmith. The propellers used on the truck in which Sonmi and Chang escape are the same as the ones used on the ships that appear in the Matrix.
Man, it just dawned on me that Wishaw and DRC met their ends with guns in the mouth.
Oh shit. Well,
I'm guessing by your reaction, it just dawned on you too.
It might very well have. If anything, that's also like that's romantically tragic, if that's a thing.
Well, yeah, I feel like romantic tragedy was born with Romeo and Juliet.
Did Grant have his throat sliced as well in Neo Soul, sorry. I call it Neo Tokyo because it just, with the way it's all sort of different time periods, it reminds me of Time Splitters, the PS2 game. And
it reminded me of like a live action version of oh man, how do you say that city? San Francisco from Big Hero 6.
Who would win in a fight? Tom Hanks's Colonel Parker or the author that pushed the guy out the window?
The
author.
Yeah, like he has nothing holds him back. Like
Dermot Hoggins would just go, I don't care if you did Elvis. You're fucking dead.
I want to see Hanks's author against Hugh Grant's tribal chief.
That would be interesting. There were a lot of cliffs at Big Island. If they're near one, the author might have the upper hand.
Wishaw, Broadbent, and Hugh Grant later appeared in Paddington 2.
I didn't even think about all three of them being in it. We mentioned Grant earlier.
Oh, we've now got a Jim Broadbent, Hugo Weaving face-off. Only 5 this time, luckily, not too many. So we've got The Borrowers or Babe. Wait, Hugo Weaving was in Babe?
Yes, he is Rex. Was that his name?
The dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he was a voice. It don't matter. Borrowers then. Borrowers easily. Oh, Hugo, it's not like he did motion capture for it. He just did the voice of a dog.
Are we doing movies or performances? I can never tell.
I mean, I'd go for that. I'd say both, but I'd say performances because it's bloody Cromwell that makes Babe.
Yeah.
More than Hugo Weaving as the voice of a bloody dog.
I saw The Borrowers in theaters, but I don't really remember much. Was Hugh Laurie was in there too, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And then Goodman was like the villain, something like
I was
that.
sitting here trying to remember. I've been trying to remember for like the past 5 minutes if John Goodman was in The Borrowers. I'm so glad you cleared that up for me.
Well, I'm getting confused because the BBC did like a TV movie about 10 years ago with I can't remember who it was as the borrowers, but yeah. So yeah, Goodman was the sort of the lawyer person, with Mark Williams as sort of the exterminator, and Hugh Laurie, yeah, was the police officer. Um, and then what was the 2011 one? Trying to remember who that was. I think Stephen Fry was the where it says Professor Mildeye. Oh, that's sort of more akin to the actual book, because it's got like the kid that finds the borrowers and the mother and father and whatever. So there's no exterminator seemingly listed in it.
What if the Borrowers was a alternate universe way that Honey I Shrunk the Kids ended?
That's
I mean, that'd be interesting.
I thought you were gonna go darker, and you were gonna say, what if like we mix The Borrowers and like the Ant Bull?
Because the version from 10 years ago of the borrowers was Tom Harper's like second film, even though it was a TV film. And of course he'd do what, the Woman in Black sequel and Wild Rose and Aeronauts next. I don't know if he's done anything else since. I know he's got something coming up soonish. Time Bandits or Babe Pig in the City? Time Bandits?
Maybe I need to rewatch it, but I wasn't really. Time Bandits never really ever did anything for me.
Ooh.
I make it sound like it owes me money or something. Like it never did anything for me. Maybe it just needs another go. Maybe I wasn't old enough to appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of all in on
British.
British movies anymore.
Maybe you're not British. Because I feel that, I mean, as Gilliam refers to it, his imagination trilogy of that, Brazil, and Baron Munchausen sort of have similar quirkiness to them, I would say. But yeah, I go with Time Bandits because, again, he's voicing a dog. Paddington 2 or Matrix 2?
I love that this is such a debate.
Yeah, because I'm gonna say Paddington 2, but like Matrix Reloaded was like, thank God you didn't say Matrix Revelations, because then it would have been an easy one. But like Reloaded was like good. It went weird,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
when the architect came in and just gave his speech for 4 hours.
I was gonna say, I do like The Matrix Reloaded. It's got some cool stuff going on.
But the power.
I feel like I hear people finally coming back around on it a little bit, but I still feel like it gets a little too much hate, and I think people are just lumping it in with the third one, and that's kind of what the problem is. Which, you can't really fault since they were like only 6 months apart.
Filmed together as well, of course.
Yeah. But I mean, I'll say this because Paddington 2 is a particular scenario. Like, I don't think I would say this about another movie. I'm just gonna, because usually I would just say this is what I think and fuck you. But because the internet is the internet, I'm gonna say Paddington 2 because I don't want lynched. I mean, I do think I actually do prefer Paddington 2, but the internet's thing about Paddington 2 is kind of really weird to me. Like, I feel like it's a meme that got way out of control, even though the movie is great. But I feel like it was that thing of it passing Citizen Kane on Rotten Tomatoes started as a meme that people started taking seriously, and people kind of forgot where the joke and where what they are saying came in. But it's still great. I'm not saying those people are unwarranted for that feeling, but the Paddington 2 thing has been really kind of odd to me as it's grown. And then Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent just added a whole other thing to that meme. But
Another Year or Priscilla, Queen of the Desert? Priscilla. All the time.
Yeah. No offense to Mike Lee, but Priscilla's great. Actually, I think I've only seen it one time, but it left an impression.
Bullets Over Broadway or The Tender Hook?
I have only seen one of those.
I know. So Tender Hook was The Boxer and the Bombshell for its North American DVD release. So it didn't even get in the cinemas over here. Well, that says everything. At least the other one did. There's clearly no confidence in it if it just goes straight to DVD. It had a budget of $7 million in Australia and it made about 60,000. And it's got negative to average reviews. So I feel confident in saying Bullets Over Broadway, even though I haven't seen it and I don't want to be biased, but considering how other people didn't really rate it that much. Brian now says, if it is in chronological order in the book, why did they splatter it everywhere?
I'm not 100% sure that's how the book is, but I felt like I heard that.
So it only got 4 awards during the televised movie award season. It got nominated for a Globe for score, and then at Critics' Choice it was nominated for visual effects, nominated for costume design, and it did win for makeup.
It's so weird how sometimes Critics' Choice of all people are the ones that know what's up.
Which one would you replace visual effects, AJ, then? So what would Cloud Atlas replace? Would it be Hobbit, Life of Pi, Avengers, Prometheus, or Snow White and the Huntsman? Honestly, I'd probably go with Snow White and the Huntsman out of that list.
I could take at least 3 of those out and not bat an eye.
I mean, Bryce said guaranteed not Life of Pi.
Yeah, not Life of Pi and not Prometheus.
Yeah.
And Avengers looked great at the time. Avengers doesn't look as great now. So yeah, any of those easily. I'm now that I remember that that's the lineup, I'm kind of offended. I don't know if I'm as offended as Pacific Rim not even being in the running the following year. That's fucked up still. But no, actually, this might be worse. Actually, I'm pretty sure this is worse.
Josephine says there's a lot more dark comedy in the film than given credit for. I mean, certainly in the 2012 one.
Yeah.
A smattering in some of the others, but...
And there's even, you know what? There's even some things that I could even, like, actually see criticisms for that aren't criticisms I've even heard. But, like how out of fucking nowhere it is the way Hugo Weaving dies in 2012 is so overkill. where Jim Sturgis loses his fucking mind and literally smashes his head into nothing. But it's like, I love how out of fucking nowhere and surreal that is. I love that that just does not belong at all. This movie makes me want to embrace every over the top thing about it. And yeah. Like anything that looks like it could be a criticism of the movie is probably something I embrace. Is the conclusion I'm coming to here.
Other than Cloud Atlas, the other 4 on the 10 shortlist that missed on VFX was Amazing Spider-Man, Dark Knight Rises, John Carter of Mars, and Skyfall.
That was just kind of an underwhelming year for visual effects, wasn't it?
To some extent. And Cloud Atlas
the fact that this mist is getting worse.
And Cloud Atlas didn't make it either in the shortlist for makeup, being that the 3 that were nominated were Hitchcock, Hobbit, and Les Mis. And the other ones that missed out were Snow White and the Huntsman, Men in Black 3, Lincoln, and Looper. Considering how makeup now is more about making them not look like them, Les Mis doesn't fit that at all.
Yeah.
It's completely the other way around.
Yeah, because it's not even just that they make them look different, but I mean, this movie has some of the biggest actors in the world, and there are moments where you do not know that it's them right away. That in itself is.
I was trying to work out which of the Asian actresses was playing the surgical doctor person with the bald head, and I'm like, and only at the end I'm like, that was Halle Berry. No wonder the accent sounded so crap. I mean,
here's the thing too. There's that point in time where Susan Sarandon is like doing the thing where she writes on the board. I never remember that that's her. She's looking directly at the fucking camera, and I don't, and I never remember that it's her. I honestly, I cannot believe. Every time I watch it, I cannot believe how much Awards Bodies dropped the ball. And I say that as like how I say I always get annoyed by people where like the discussion usually starts at, I can't believe this thing didn't get nominated or something. And it's like, well, yeah, it didn't, but that was, you have to follow the races and stuff like that. And it's like, sometimes it's clear when something's not getting in, but it's like, this is a case where it will never not baffle me. Because, like I said, it excels in every fucking category. It's insane.
Josephine says the colour palette of the mostly blue is beautiful. And then Bry also says, yeah, it was one of the 104 films eligible for score, but instead we had Anna Karenina, Argo, Life of Pi, which was the winner, Lincoln, and Skyfall.
I remember Life of Pi's score. I remember Skyfall's score. I can't tell you a fucking thing about the others.
Yeah. Argo to some extent, just because I really did like that. But yeah, I feel a lot of Anna Karenina and Lincoln could just be insert generic period film here. Jotham says Ben Wishaw's been married to his husband 10 years since last August, so both are having an anniversary this year. I'm trying to remember, was Cloud Atlas a Christmas film?
No.
Oh, okay. End of October. It just feels like something that could have been put out sort of at the end of the year, sort of thing. Oh, and ironically, Thursday is the 10th anniversary of the TIFF premiere for Cloud Atlas.
What were you saying a second ago, brother?
I was just saying that when you gave him that look and you were like, no, I was saying I think he means released at Christmas, not that it's a Christmas themed.
When did it? I'm usually really good about this stuff. I cannot remember when it came out. Was it October?
Yeah,
That's what
October
he
the
said.
26th.
Okay, I didn't hear him say it.
It was one of those that premiered at TIFF and they released it in a couple of months rather than save it to the end of the year. The character arc of Sammy sort of reminds me of V in V for Vendetta. I'm trying to remember which one Sammy is because there's so many characters. Oh, Sommi, I guess.
Yeah, that sounds like autocorrect at work.
Yeah. To some extent, although I do feel it's very Ghost in the Shell-esque. Because obviously the Ghost in the Shell character has ulterior means as it's intended.
Yeah, I just remembered that we have Natalie Portman to thank, or in Brian's case, not thank, for this movie essentially existing. Because wasn't it? I think she was supposed to be Sonmi, and then she got pregnant. But she introduced it to Lana Wachowski when they were on V for Vendetta. Which is nice that our movie club choices are now, like, really connecting.
I was trying to look. I'm trying to look for, like... It just says production. So yeah, Twyker, Ass, Portman, Hanks, Berry... So in that case, does that imply that Portman was going to be the Duna Bay character?
Yeah, I read that she was actually like promised Sonmi when they said we're going to make the movie, and then she got pregnant around the time, like when she was. I think it would have been around the time she was doing her Oscar run for Black Swan, when she got pregnant around then.
James McAvoy, who I don't know whether he'd be the Wishaw character or the Sturgis character.
I was thinking more Sturgis, probably.
Yes, because Sturgis gives me McAvoy vibes anyway. I feel like that's just in general.
I mean, we know McAvoy can do woman. You know, we've seen Split.
Now I absolutely want to see McAvoy as the insane fan that kills Nurse Noakes. He would have quite literally, he would have crushed that.
I mean, because he's actually Scottish, and because you know, I watch Wanted. He knows how to do action. And then Ian McKellen, I guess, was supposed to get Broadbent's role.
That would have been interesting.
That would have how you'd have him being sort of. I feel Broadbent fits the comedy vein more, even though I know McKellen was doing a lot of good comedy at that time on TV with like Vicious. So, oh, that's interesting. So, Hugh Grant joined the cast days before the start of filming. Was only supposed to be in 5 of them, but said, "Can I be in all 6 of them?" And that's how Denholm Cavendish was created. At least his portrayal. He wasn't originally supposed to be the brother.
Yeah, it's weird how much that falls together because it still makes perfect sense because he's still a villain of that story.
And according to Hallie, also the character of Ovid that she plays in the Neo Soul storyline was originally supposed to be a female Tom Hanks, until the directors felt that Ovid was a logical part of the journey of Berry's soul throughout the eras, which is why Tom Hanks became the Kentucky Fried Colonel.
That's great. I kind of love that, actually.
Josephine says, similar to how the movie had 3 directors, it also had 3 composers in Reinhold Heil, Johnny Klimek, and Tom Twyker himself. To you guys, to your guys' point about Tom Hanks struggling with good and evil, I noticed this time around how complex the characters are and not put in boxes. Yeah, because that's why part of me feels like Hugh Grant's character at the start in the sort of 1800s one isn't like evil, it's just that was the norms at the time. You know, he was just saying how, you know, his dad was a great man and whatever. Where at the same time, when we get to Hugo Weaving at the end, he's like, I want to run this slave ship.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, so if we were to take out the part of Cavendish's brother that he didn't initially have, would that mean that Grant's characters get progressively more evil as they go?
I mean,
seems like it should
don't
be
they anyway?
intentional.
Don't they anyway?
Hooks is really shady, and the thing about Cavendish is I guess you could say he was just an antagonist towards his brother, but then again, he did say he has a lot of investment in Aurora House for the last 12 years, which is pretty evil in itself. But like Hooks, it seems like it would be more widespread. But
well, yeah, with the 70s one, it's just him doing it for the betterment of himself. 2012 is purposefully fucking his brother over. I think that's a stage more. There's, you know, what he was doing was sort of like indirect murder. What he was he was basically implying that, the nurse is gonna fuck him up, you know. And oh look, he fell out of the bed and died, even though he's got like a wound the size of sort of, you know, Madagascar in the size of his head or whatever, or his chest from whatever blow the nurse did. Which other Tom Hanks movie would you like to see a crossover with this one?
Maybe
Forrest Gump is a passage of time movie too.
Hologram for the King, because it might be interesting.
Yeah, Hologram for the King is a piece of shit, which is really crazy. It's him
Is
and
that
T-Word.
why that was Tom's last film as director, and he hasn't done anything since other than the Berlin Babylon TV thing? He hasn't done a film since Hologram for the King.
Hologram for the King was T-Word, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
I was thinking of... What's that?
Tom hasn't done anything movie-wise since that. Tweaker, that is.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
You were saying Tom, I was thinking Hanks.
Yeah. That's the Hanks.
Yeah.
I always refer to him as Hanks.
Okay, yeah.
Like he does on all his Twitter, with the X. It's not KS, it's X. Hanks.
I feel like I'm not fucking here.
This is why you've watched too much Cloud Atlas. You don't know what's going on.
My mind needs to settle the fuck down or something.
Hang on, let's wake it back up. Mark, hot damn! There we go. Hang on, I've got to get the new one. Bardo! Still got to get the donkey out. Josephine says, I wonder how Colin or Tom or Rita feel when Orange County's on TV. Or Turner and Hooch. I guess this is when we were to get into the bit where it's like, yeah, but Amazon Prime's got Cloud Atlas. Get that shit on.
Now imagine if like Tom Hanks has a Cloud Atlas room that has like posters up in it. And
Tom Hanks' character.
he got everybody to sign it like a yearbook.
Josephine says Tom Hanks' character in The Terminal time travels on the plane to the different Cloud Atlas timelines.
Dude, I want to drop Ray in the middle of the far future one. in his bathrobe.
he he reacts so erratically to everything. He would never laugh. Hugh Grant would have him for lunch in like 20 seconds.
No, I've got it. You remember in Loki when they had Loki watching all of the things that were affected by him?
Yeah.
I want a scene of Ray sitting there watching all of Tom Hanks' lives play out in Cloud Atlas.
So we definitely have to see his reaction to the plane exploding.
Bry also says, don't forget, will it help everyone? Sowl and the yak, and the lizard. This season we just have a different donkey, the John Goodman log, and Bardo. Yeah, Josephine says if the movie was made today, Jim Sturgis would not have been in the Duna Bay future segment.
No,
Neither would Hugo Weaving.
A lot of cast changing.
I wonder whether you can't really do it with the slaveries, because the slavery thing is sort of a key point. But I feel like you couldn't really do the shipping stuff as well, and people would believe it as much as if you had a Chinese character in there. But there obviously were sort of Asian slaves as well, I'm pretty sure. So maybe you could have had that. That would have been even more of a sort of synergy with that sort of character going through what they're doing in the 1700s, and then sort of like hearkening to rescuing the trapped person in Neo Soul. So Bry says all in all, it's not an F. I give Cloud Atlas an E because of how boring and confusing it was. But then, just as an added sort of stick the knife into Owen, I would say I'd rather watch it than Airheads. And also something that is being asked in the chat, and I'm just going to check on. Josephine does ask what's happened to Jim Sturgis.
As in, like, where is he?
Yeah. So he showed up in Geostorm and kidnapping Freddie Heineken, then JT Leroy from 2018, along with London Fields. Oh God. Berlin, I Love You, and then apparently he's in Katie Holmes' directorial debut, I think, Alone Together, which came out back in July. Went on video on demand a week afterwards, so does it have a Rotten Tomatoes? Did anybody see it? This would be funny if I go to Rotten Tomatoes and it doesn't even have a score because that few people have seen it.
I was going to say that's his only post-COVID movie, the Katie Holmes thing. But apparently he was the main role in a show called Home Before Dark that was on Apple TV Plus.
31%. Alone Together. Yeah, I'm surprised that he hasn't done anything else. He was very good in Hard Sun, and then that just got cancelled after one season because that was too clever, I guess. So yeah, he's just
Yeah, I was just gonna say there was a time there where he was making really interesting choices.
I mean, he's been married for a couple of years to Dina Masawi, who's an actress and presenter, um, and they've got one kid. Uh, oh, but he tweeted on tweeted. He was on Instagram saying Happy Father's Day, which I guess was the reveal. But he was a dad, so maybe he's just happy we're doing that. Maybe whatever money that he got, he actually is like saved it up. He hasn't done like other people and wasted it all and having to go into a career like making God knows what. I'm looking at you, Sylvester Stallone. I'm making Samaritan because I need money because I'm getting a divorce. um. Uh. I like that I have to approve this comment. Bry also says somebody who didn't like this movie, whether this is on Letterboxd or something or a different reviewer, because Bry is classified. I didn't do this. Somebody else did. Somebody called the movie Cloud Ass Lick. Well, there's the porn parody version. That person called that movie as his worst sci-fi film and number 18 worst of the 2010s.
Can't even. Like there's movies where I would say I love this movie, but I get that. No, that's completely lost on me.
From what I've heard, there's a film that's directed, written, produced by and starring Michael Flatley that if it probably won't show up on the Rotten Tomatoes because it won't get released in America. But apparently it's bad. Part of me does want to see it. Part of me does definitely not. So to close, I'd say I get what it was trying to do. I just found it way too confusing at times to sort of fully connect with it. Maybe a second watch would help, but also part of me feels like I just get just as confused because I wouldn't actually be focusing on anything. I'd just be looking for the stuff that like connects up and everything instead. But weirdly, I'm pleased that I've actually now seen it. Although I don't know why.
Brother, you have anything to close with?
No, I think, like I said before, though, I really like anthology movies, and I look at this as an anthology movie. Even though I mean, I would consider it an anthology movie.
Yeah, pretty
But I
much,
like it. I like how each era feels unique. Um, I think the makeup, I could see where people would think it looks bad, but like I said, I appreciate the effort. I'm glad that we used practical effects to try to conceal people, and in some cases it worked. Hugo Weaving as a nurse did not work to conceal him, but that's fine. But I do definitely think it's a movie that you do have to it has to grow on you and develop a taste for it. I could definitely see it being a movie that it would be really hard to change somebody's opinion on because it would be hard to get them to sit down and watch it again, I think.
yeah, because since it's such like a massive undertaking anyway, being not only in the structure that it's in, but being nearly 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole thing moves so fast to me now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I loved it at first sight, even though I knew I wasn't getting everything. It was just like, just the entire cinematic nature of it just really, I was just in from the get go. And I'm so glad we got to see it in a theater too. And the fact that the second time that I saw it was like a very, me and Owen were already out somewhere, and I was like, I think I need to go to Cloud Atlas again. I just need that. And so we just went. We were like 5 minutes late, but obviously with a 3-hour movie, that doesn't make too much of a difference.
Oh, right, yes. Brian must have missed it yesterday because he's asking what is Owen's pick. So, yeah, if in case you missed it yesterday, our movie in 2 weeks will be Penn and Teller Get Killed from 88, I think it is. Let me just double check. What does Wikipedia say? If it ever loads.
I was thinking
September
89, but I could
89.
be- Okay.
September 89 it is. I'm hoping it's accessible. I don't know whether it probably might be accessible for you guys in America, but like I don't know how much it's going to be available in here.
I think it might be rentable on YouTube, maybe.
Let's double check.
I wouldn't quote me on that, but I was I was thinking that might be the case.
I mean, if it's Warner Brothers, it's probably going to be on. That's just Amazon.com. That's not America. No, that is America. The other way around. There. Penn and Teller Get. I tried to put him in Penn and Teller Get Killed UK, and it tried to autocorrect to Ukraine. So I don't know. There we go. Where to watch Penn and Teller streaming? Penn and Teller Get Killed is not streaming nor available to rent or purchase. Well, that's ominous. I'll have to find other means, and if there are no other means, I'm just going to be like a nodding dog and go, yeah, I'll take your word for it, Owen. Nobody wants it to be on the internet. So, hang on. Oh, great. Please don't freeze up. What the hell? I've got too many things going on in Firefox now. Penn and Teller has caused like all sorts of shit to happen. I don't know what to close. Brilliant. Close that, please. Can I shut that, please? Can I do something? I can't even see chat because like, oh god, 116? Can I kill these processes and hope none of them are like important? As in anything to do with the YouTube feed. Please.
That would kind of suck, but should we, just in case, should we like wrap this up?
Yeah, I'm just trying to.
So we don't have a very anticlimactic finish.
I'm just trying to get control over Firefox again because nothing's opening. I just keep getting. Oh god. Every time I
while
close
you're
stuff, it
working on
opens.
that, I think AJ, I think I told you I have 60s Batman and 60s Riddler set up in a wrestling ring, like as part of one of the dioramas I'm doing with the 66 figures. Well, when we were in Wilmington doing the toy hunt, I found a Vince McMahon ring announcer and a referee to help complete the scene. But I don't know if you could see the problem in this picture or not. But see if you can spot an issue.
What is the issue?
Look how much bigger the ref is.
I wasn't sure if that was the case or if it was like a perspective thing.
No, the ref is giant. Like they literally come up to the ref's shoulders.
So it looks like a teacher on the playground, like breaking a fight up.
It does. It looks like a Halloween party gone wrong.
I should not have gone on that website because, like, can I have control over Firefox, please?
The referee I wanted was. Do you remember the referee figure that we had that had like the blue shirt and the bow tie? And he was a little shorter.
Yeah.
I was looking for him, but by himself online, there's people selling him for like $50.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Didn't he like
So
come with a wave
if
or
you ever come across that figure, please hook me up, so I don't have Sasquatch reffing this match.
Now the worrying thing is I'm going like the high numbers and trying to work out which one may be YouTube and which one isn't. We're still streaming live, it's just I might have to refresh the page to make it work. Oh god, is it that one? It's not that one. YouTube disappeared on me probably. Okay, I've shut down all but 2. And the problem is... Please let it be that one? No, wrong one. Right, let's quickly start up Firefox again.
If something should go wrong, this will still be archived, won't it?
I mean, we are still streaming, and I haven't clicked end stream. So it's just... Look what you caused, Owen. Me just looking to see if Penn and Teller exist caused my entire computer to seize up. Brilliant.
Maybe the movie should have been called Ashley's Computer Gets Killed.
That was this weekend when the internet died. So while I wait for everything else to load up, and hope that it eventually connects, maybe I can try and crash that, and everything will load up a bit quicker. Maybe. What we've got coming up, I've got some snack stashes to get round to. I'm waiting to see what's going on. Alright, I can actually check now whether anything interesting has been added to McDonald's, given that the new stuff has come around. AJ is obviously going to be doing a lot of movie content over the next couple of months. Tomorrow is the start of the remake stuff. Are you going to give us a reveal as to the first one for tomorrow, or?
I can if you want me to.
Might as well. Leave them wanting more.
The first one is the Italian Job.
Ooh. I still remember I like the fact that the video games are like just the same. The video game of Modern Italian Job is like nothing like the original. So as YouTube tries to load, maybe. Chris, what's coming up on your Instagram?
Nothing till October. We got Toy Ohio, October the 15th. I am thinking about going on and posting a couple pictures of the bobblehead collection and the current toy hunting collection. I'm just kind of let you guys know where I'm at, and plus to give my Instagram something to do. But other than that, probably not a lot. Maybe some posts here or there. But the next big thing is Toy Ohio in October. So make sure to come on, comment on the toys, and comment anywhere that you know that I can find Michael Keaton Batman era memorabilia. That is what I'm hunting right now.
Right. I'm still waiting for YouTube to actually load up. This is... What did you do, Owen? You've hijacked my computer. Is this where Johnny Lee Miller suddenly shouts, "Hack the planet!" Like, so I guess I'll just hit end streaming on OBS because I don't know what the hell's going on. Sorry. Blame Owen. The one time where that might actually be the case. The only time. Unless it loads in time. God, I'm stalling like nobody's business. Waiting for processes to load and like work, and then oh my
It's like
god,
we're
I
being
stalled long
forced to
enough. I stalled long enough. I can see whether we actually are still alive.
Now I know how. I think I finally know how Brian felt watching Cloud Atlas. He's like, I feel trapped here. I can't go anywhere. It's taking a very long time.
It might take 3 hours. Uh, I can be found on Twitter at Ash is my name UK. Well, I'm probably just gonna retweet good stuff and then also like crazy stuff. So if you're interested in that, keep an eye over there. Owen can be found at Sir Owen Disney, keeping you up to date on probably up to date on sort of shenanigans going on with him and HHN more than likely. AJ, just like Keith Richards, has 2 legs and also cannot be killed by conventional weapons. I stalled long enough, it might be tension mounting. Oh, the end stream button's still there. Connect software to start preview. Oh no, it is there. Right, I'm going to pause it just to see what other people are saying in chat as well. The best aspect of the film is how it's both critical of society and hopeful at the same time. What's the name of the movie again? Penn and Teller Get Killed. Although Bry has said, I have no access and I'm not doing rentals. First moving violations and now this. I guess I'll wait until the next poll between Summer School and what's Ashley's pick. In terms of what we're doing with that, I might as well say now. The day before we do Summer School, all 4 of us are going to be putting in a pitch. So basically we're sorting out all your plans for October and November. So I'm going to go for something that's the least horror thing as possible because everyone else will do something horror. Let's see if the non-horror thing gets in on Halloween weekend, or as close as we can as damn it to that, because that would be funny in itself. So yeah, we'll be back again. It'll be Monday and Tuesday while Owen's busy with his HHN stuff. So Monday the 19th for Q&A, Tuesday the 20th for Penn and Teller. So thanks everybody for working out as to what I'm doing. And until tomorrow, boys and girls.